Hello, what's going on? It's Doug Cunnington here. This is the weekly live stream. We're just a few days late. Usually I do these on Tuesday. And I was on vacation. So I was like, I'll probably reschedule it when I get back. And then I did some other stuff, forgot, and then here we are Friday. I didn't have anything going on. Let me know if you could hear me in the chat. And I see there's a couple folks on already. Daniel's on. What's up? Good to see you. Yeah, I just scheduled it like an hour and a half ago. I was thinking, what's a great topic to cover? What's something that people ask? I have had this conversation with folks in person, and it could be about websites, it could be about some other project. And I phrased it this way so it's relevant for the channel. That is, will this niche be profitable? And you could substitute in there like, will this set of keywords be profitable? Is this niche going to be profitable? Should I work on it or not? So that's what we're going to dig into today overall. When I sent the email out this morning, I basically said it'll probably be like a 10-minute rant, and I can go on. And if you have questions out there, please do ask. And that counts for you in the chat that's live, but also you in the comments out there, people that watch the replay because you couldn't catch it live for whatever reason, time zones, you're busy, whatever. So let me know in the comments and in the chat if you have any specific questions or anything like that. But generally, that's what we're going to talk about today. Couple sponsors, quick shout out. Number one, we have Ezoic. In my vacation, I was actually in San Diego. I thought I was going to be able to go to the Ezoic office, but through some scheduling issues, I wasn't able to do that. But next time, I really like San Diego, so I'm probably going to go back. And then I'll get to check out the Ezoic office and meet some of the folks that I've been interacting with for a few years. They have a product called Leap. It'll help your website load faster, get green in Core Web Vitals, and generally have a good user experience. It's actually not even new, but Ezoic doesn't have any page view minimum. So as soon as you start your site, you basically can start using some of the tools. All right, so Ezoic, thanks to them. And then Odys, I will roll an ad in a little bit. I'll have to find it. I did record it, but I'll roll an ad to give myself a little bit of a break. So thanks to those two folks. And I do want to give a shout out to Content Pit, not a pure sponsor of this live stream, but I did work out a deal for 10% off with a coupon code, which is listed in the description. It is only valid until June 30th, so another few days here. You could follow the link in the description to get more information about the deal, but 10% off with Content Pit. Funny thing, I actually connected with them a couple years ago because I talked to several people and they mentioned Content Pit as one of the vendors that they were using, one of the agencies. And then, Content Pit, basically, they were busy. So they didn't want to get a flood of new customers in, but they have more bandwidth, they've grown the team and so on. So we reconnected recently. So we got this 10% off that I'll mention here. So thanks to Content Pit. Godfrey said it's always a pleasure to have these interactions. Cool. And it should be it's kind of an intimate group today because it is last minute. And one thing that I did find, because I actually used to do these live streams on Friday, I think right around this time, but it turned out to be kind of a poor time zone situation where it just wasn't working out. Not as many people hopped on. Kind of an awkward time. It's Friday, of course, and if you're in one of the GMT, very close time zones, if you're in Europe, basically this is like your Friday evening, and maybe you want to hang out with your family, maybe you go out with friends. So this turned out to be kind of a poor time, which is why I moved it to Tuesday. Wednesday, kind of went back and forth, but typically these are on Tuesday. If you do want to get notifications about these live streams, you can sign up in the description here. It's like get YouTube notifications. the thing is we can't rely on YouTube to actually send these out in a timely way. Sometimes, it just doesn't work out. It's been a known issue for a little while. So anyway, you can sign up and then I'll send you an actual email like an hour before we go live. I think it does sign you up for the full email list. There's like whatever information you need to know in there. So, okay. For the people that are on, if you have the opportunity, did you ask yourself this question? Will this niche be profitable? Do I know if this is going to work? And so on. So that is what we're going to dive into today. And the reason why it's a little bit of a rant, but no, it's not a rant. I'm just going to explain some stuff. I'm not angry about it at all. The thing is, entrepreneurship and any side hustle that you are going to work on, you won't really know if it's going to be successful or profitable or how you thought it was going to turn out to be. There's no way to know that. That is literally like being able to tell the future. Even after you do this for a few years, you don't really know if everything you work on is going to be a success. In fact, probably it is not going to be a success. Things will always turn out a little bit different than what you expect. And that's totally okay. As you do this, and actually to back up on that, if you're only working on things that you know are going to be successful, you're probably not trying very interesting or new or challenging things. So that's really the bottom line. When you are thinking about whether a specific niche is going to be profitable, don't worry. I will tell you a couple of things that you can look for to see if you're moving down the right track, if you have some evidence that can help you understand what you're working on, whether or not it's going to be successful. You can look for some clues out there in the world. But the fact is, even if I was working on something that I was successful at, 10 previous times, there's no guarantee that, whatever time this is, whether or not it's going to be successful. You just don't know. There's too many external variables. And one of the big ones is the competition, which we will talk about a little bit too. And I should write down all the things that I'm saying that I'm going to talk about, or else I'm going to forget completely. So what did I say? Clues, competition. And so far, we'll work on the 2 C's here. But there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. Even if you've, built and created, 10 other sites, or maybe you're in the, acquisition and grow a site kind of phase where you're like, I'm just going to buy sites that are already running, grow them, and then sell them. You won't know if those are going to be successful either, even if you have a really great track record. Again, there's so many external variables that you really can't control, and you could do your best to do a good job and know the components and the pieces and activities and the phases that you need to go through and have the right set of expectations about how long it's going to take and the work that it'll take. But in the long run, you really don't know. That is the whole point here. Again, I will tell you about some clues and some things about the competition that you could look at. But overall, if you're working on something, you won't know if it's going to work. That is the big thing. And one of the problems that we see, and I think in the Niche Lifestyle show this past week, I probably mentioned it a little bit. I guess it's been sort of in the front of my mind. The podcast episode I published yesterday had pieces of this, but people want to know if the shit they're working on is going to be worthwhile and if it's going to be successful. If they don't know if it's going to be successful, there's a little bit of fear and hesitation to take action because you don't want to waste your time, which is normal, right? We all have limited time. We all have 24 hours a day. There's only so much time that you have in your life. And as you get older, it's very clear that you have, less and less time. So you don't want to waste it. But the problem is you'll never get the guarantee. And if you just wait until there's something where you're like, I can't lose on this, either it's bullshit or you're not doing anything interesting because it is such a low barrier to success. You basically have to take a chance and work on something knowing that it may not work out. And most likely, it's probably, if it's your first time around on whatever it is, it's probably not going to work out great, but you're going to learn something along the way. And that's the key, to learn along the way. And then you can kind of take a stair-step approach where you do things that are just a little bit more challenging than what you just accomplished, and then go from there. You might have a set of skills that really help you out. So for example, I just coached someone this past week, and she has a journalism background. She's a writer. She's been a writer for 30, 35 years, something like that, professionally. So she knows how to write, and she knows how to write for the web, and she's going to be working on a website. Actually, she's already started the site, and she's going to be doing more stuff with an understanding of keyword research and what she needs to do to earn money. She's probably going to make it work out. She has a huge leg up on all of her competitors because of her qualifications and the experience that she has. You may have that too. You may need to carve it out and figure out what skills you have that you can use for your website projects. But basically, you won't know if it's going to work, and hopefully you can layer on skills, marry those skills up with things that you've already done in the past so that you have like a unique set of skills. For me, I had the project management experience, some technical software know-how, not very sophisticated, but I was comfortable with technology overall. And then I learned a lot about content writing and then SEO and keyword research. So all that kind of worked together well, especially when I needed to train a team, hire people, interview people, like all these skills that I had from my day job. I was able to use those and take advantage of that. So at first I wrote a lot of the content myself, but then I realized, well, I could hire people, and that's a really good idea, a good way to scale. And I have a lot of skills in the hiring, onboarding, and training area. So why don't I hire people? And that's going to be a much better way to scale than me just like working harder, and I have skills in that area. So it made total sense, and that was a way that I was able to scale up. So I'm going to hit a couple quick questions here, and then I will come back to the clues that you can look for to see if your niche will be profitable, and a little bit about competition. All right. Quick, sort of unrelated. Dylan says, how many posts do you wait till, basically, how many posts should you publish before you build links? I started building links when I had like 10 posts, something like that. Basically, I started immediately. So I would say if you have the ability to go ahead and start building links, build links as soon as possible. If you only have limited resources or time or capital, and you can only focus on, publishing or building links, then maybe you can publish for a little bit longer. But I would say if you're into building links, do it as soon as possible. There's absolutely no reason to wait. Some people will say it looks unnatural for a new website to get links, and I say that's bullshit. So the reason why is I started a new site recently, but the thing is I've been doing things for a little while, so I have a network, and I can tell my friends who have websites that I've launched a new project, and it sure would be nice if they would link to it, or if I wrote a guest post for them or whatever. So if you have a marketing mindset and you're like, I launched a new thing and I want to promote it, then of course you will tell other websites that you're doing it, and they will link back to you if you have a network. If you're just some random person that has never done anything online, you don't have a network, then maybe it would seem unnatural. And if you think about it in a logical way, then, well, you can make the judgment yourself. But I think it's normal for a website to get backlinks as soon as they launch, as soon as they start promoting it. And if you're promoting their website, or the ones who are thinking, oh, my site's not really that good. I don't want to promote it that much. Whoa, it's a very slippery marker. I'll be right back. So anyway, I think you can start building links as soon as possible. Okay. Daniel says, when I tell people I'm in the pet niche, I get that's a competitive niche. It was confusing at the start whenever, whether it was a bad niche, but when people, but, but then the same people couldn't give me a good niche. And then Daniel says, I understand more now, but at the start it was very confusing. And then Lorenzo says, the pet niche is great because there's so many different sub niches that you can carve your way into. And Daniel also says, the KGR method helps a lot. Okay. So here's the thing with, is it too competitive? So perfect segue. Thank you, Daniel, for mentioning this. So initially, when people would say, hey, is this niche too competitive? You fill in the blank, right? It doesn't matter what it is. I would say, yeah, that is too competitive. I would probably stay away from that. And I've shifted very recently, I've shifted how I answer that. I don't think anything is too competitive now. It does depend on if you're brand new or if you're more experienced and maybe you've launched, 3 or 4 sites, you've had a little bit of success, you've understood the mistakes that you've made and you're working to change them and do a better job in the future. You've refined your skills and you know what you're good at. You're focusing on that. You're outsourcing other pieces. So if you're brand new, you could run into a little bit of an issue if you're working in a really competitive niche. And I'll mention one here. And I actually have a great example. It's very crowded, very competitive. It's saturated, all the things that people mention. But now what I want people to think about is like, how interested are you in that topic area? Do you have a golden retriever, for example? So I interviewed someone named Jake not too long ago. He told us his niche. You can go back and watch the interview. He made some mistakes. In fact, in the first year, he only published about 12 articles. This is completely counter to a lot of the stuff that we hear where like Charlie from Passive Priority, he's published like 1,000 articles in a year. Like it's a full content sprint. There's many different approaches. Now, when I did talk to Jake, he was like, I wish I would have published more the first year, but 1 article per month was all that he had time for. And then after the site started getting a little more traction, he realized that he wanted to put more time into it. And he's definitely stepped up his game as far as publishing and how much he's writing. He's in the dog niche. He's in the golden retriever niche. And the thing is, he and his wife, they got a golden retriever. They're thinking about it every day. They're talking with their friends about it, with their family about it. It is something that they're passionate about, they're interested in, and on a daily basis, they have a reminder on, more than just a daily basis, like all day long, they're hanging out with their dog. So there's a very good chance that if you're into it and you're passionate about it, you're going to be okay. If you have a long timeline, you're going to be okay, especially if it is something that you're into. If you pick the golden retriever niche and you don't like dogs and you have a cat, then maybe that's not a good one. You're probably not going to be able to compete because you don't give a shit about the subject matter. If you are a person who's completely agnostic on the topic area just because you love the business model, that's another thing, and that's relevant as well. The whole point here is really no niche is too competitive if you're willing to put in the time. How much time are you willing to put in? What kind of effort do you have? What are your background skills? Like all those things matter too. But off the bat, if someone just told me, they want to get into tech reviews and specifically like laptops or something like that, something like pretty profitable where there's a lot of competition, I wouldn't deter them if they have a specific reason why they want to work on that. So I don't think anything is too competitive. When you look at any of the given sites that are out there in a niche, like there is, there's higher quality, there's lower quality, there's sites that are really established, but if you study the SERPs and if you look at all the competitors out there, you'll probably find there's some newer competitors that have carved out a little area. Maybe they took a different approach. Maybe they looked at a different audience, and maybe they do video and they do a really good job on video and they grew very quickly that way. And then they have a website on the back end. That is totally valid. So if you're able to put in the time and effort, no niche is too competitive, especially if someone, I mean, this happened again recently, a coaching person. It's a really competitive niche, but they're an expert in it, and they were like, I'm gonna give it a shot. There's no reason why they can't become, one of the next big sites, but it won't be overnight. It's not going to be like, hey, can I do this in 6 months? It's going to be like, hey, will you put in, 2 or 3 years and then have basically something that can replace your full-time income, maybe many times your full-time income. That is very possible. All right, let me catch up on the chat here. Thanks for the questions. All right. Ninja says, did you see a boost in podcast traffic when you mentioned it specifically on a stream a few weeks ago? I think so. I didn't. Number one, if it's the one that I just mentioned like 2 days ago, it's almost not quite enough time, but I'll double check if there is any impact there. Yeah, usually not. It's hard to get people to do stuff like on the other side, it's great that everyone's watching, but it's hard to get people to do stuff when it takes a minute or two. Susan, what's up? Has anyone noticed how setting up Google Analytics is freaking difficult? So I haven't messed with the Google Analytics 4 yet. So I have heard about it and everyone is talking about it, but I personally have not gotten into it. So I hope there's going to be some resolution, some way to solve that. But from what I hear, I actually don't even understand why Google is doing this. Maybe someone mentioned something about like data privacy and that sort of thing. But it does seem baffling. Like basically, it seems like analytics seem to work fine. So it seems crazy to put something in place that apparently it sounds like nothing is configured. So you install it and then you have to like set up your own reports. So that sounds dumb to me. I don't know. Ravi says, would like to know when to go for ads after how many posts on a website as a new website, 3 old domain, 10 posts on it. I'd say wait till you get some traffic. So don't worry about how many posts are on your site. That is kind of irrelevant. You can maybe put it on after you're getting like maybe 20 visitors a day or something like that. You won't earn much, but at least you'll start getting a little bit of revenue in. Sonia says, good question. What is the definition of a profitable niche? Yeah, that's a great question. And basically here, I was thinking, what could get clicks? So people will start watching this video. And that's something that people are like most profitable niches. So they're looking for something that can earn money. But basically, in this case, what I'm saying is there any money in this niche? Is there any money in this set of keywords? Will I earn money? Will this be a profitable thing? So that's the main idea. And I was just playing with the clickability of the title here. But that's a good question. And I would turn it around and, That's just my definition for this conversation. Like, can we earn some money with this niche? Are these keywords any good? But what do you think in the chat? That matters too. If you have the opportunity, hit the thumbs up. I appreciate it if you do. Zach's on. What's up? John is on too. Sam is around. It's late and it's cooking time. Cool. Art Kid is on, and we got Fahad as well with a question. What's the best way to reverse engineer a website? So can you talk about what you mean by reverse engineer? I'll go ahead and start answering. Thanks for everyone who's hitting the thumbs up. Man, that really works. All right. Michael, what's happening? So to reverse engineer a website, I would say, number one, have a good look at it. See how they have sort of put the whole thing together from an architecture standpoint. Have a look at their keywords or general kind of approach. That gives you an idea if they're looking at informational keywords or if it's more product review based. And then probably the sort of easiest way is to use a tool, some keyword research tool, where it will give you the keywords that the site is ranking for. You can also find their XML sitemap, and then you could basically like check out all the posts that they have, right? You can get a list of their URLs, and that gives you a really good idea what they're doing. From there, I think SEMrush and Ahrefs are probably the best tools to go and get the keywords that the site is ranking for, and that gives you a good idea about the keywords that they are approaching. The other part, and I would probably use Ahrefs for this, is to have a look from the backlink standpoint and see where they're getting their backlinks. You will find that some sites do virtually no backlinking. They just get organic, natural backlinks from other sites. Sometimes they do like shotgun skyscraper campaigns where they're sending out, hundreds of emails, thousands of emails, and really spending a lot of time building links. And they may have, a lot of very powerful links. You may see they're doing like Haro link building and that sort of thing. So you can check those few areas, but yeah, that should actually do it overall. You can also look at their monetization strategy. So you may see ads. Those are pretty obvious. You can dig a little deeper and find out what ad network they're using or what software they're using to push it. You can check out the different affiliate programs that they're working with. You may have to look around, see some of the products they're promoting, see the companies, and you can check out the link, and it'll give you an idea how they're monetizing the site. So I think that pretty much covers it. And Sony's asking what seems like a joke question. Oh, no, it's not a joke question. I just read it wrong. Sorry. Okay. Sonia says, what if the niche is very low competition, but is low EPMV, that's earnings per 1,000 visitor, for ad revenue? So if it's low competition and low ad revenue, then, I mean, if you're passionate, that's fine. You could work with that one. Of course, if it's very low competition, there's not necessarily, but if it's low competition, there's probably a small market out there. And if you have a very low EPMV, you would need a large amount of traffic to make that not profitable, but make it more profitable, earn more revenue. So the thing is, you just have to, figure it out if that's worthwhile for you. So there are some niches, and this was one of my mistakes. I think on the very first site that I created, it was a pretty small audience, a pretty small market overall. It's just not a lot of interest. There was virtually no way to monetize it well with affiliate products. And then the other issue was it was very low ad revenue. So no real good way to monetize with affiliate. The ad revenue was very low. The audience was small. So overall, it was a good learning experience to see, like, can you get a lot of traffic for a smaller niche? And, the traffic was actually pretty decent. It was, again, a small market overall, but it was a decent amount of traffic, especially for my first site. But the ad revenue was just not there, and there was no way to monetize it very well with an affiliate offer. So I did move on. I mean, I didn't completely throw out the content, but, basically I was like, I built a site, I learned some stuff. It didn't turn out like I expected. I moved on to something else where I knew, right? I went the other way. I swung the other way, and I was like, well, I'm going to aim for like the affiliate offers that I know that are there. And I like started with the products in mind up front. All right. And Sonia says, okay. Cartho says, you're late. Can you take it from the top? Sure. All you have to do is rewind to the beginning, and then you could watch it from there. And then Sonia says it's low competition, but it's on Mediavine, and I guess they're getting paid well because I can't find much income reports on my niche. Got it. And Art Kid says something which seems irrelevant here. Will a niche be profitable? Probably if you're with probably not if you're with Bluehost or Equal Quality. And while I don't like Bluehost, I would say that hosting is kind of irrelevant. One issue, right, is like if you have one of the cheaper accounts on like Bluehost. Again, I just want to make it clear, I don't promote Bluehost or anything, but if you have one of the cheaper products for Bluehost, I mean, your site's going to kind of load slow because you're with like, 500 other websites on the same server. You have a very small amount of resources, but the thing is you could just get a better hosting plan, and then, your hosting is a like solvable thing. So if you don't like Bluehost, certainly, switch somewhere else. But the hosting company is probably not going to be the thing holding you back. If so, then, just switch to another company. But maybe Art Kid just had some sort of issue and they're lashing out here. I don't know. But yeah, I had issues with Bluehost, and I mean the customer service was just terrible when I worked with them. And then I was like, all right, there's too many other companies. I'm out of here. This is not worth it. All right. Jim says, how's it going? Good here. Good to have you back on. It's been a little bit. What about the automotive niche? Share your thoughts. I don't know much about it, and I haven't looked into it too much, but I think there's a wide range. You could focus on electric vehicles. You can focus on, big diesel trucks. And I know I have in the past when I was researching like stuff for my truck, just like small maintenance things. There's a ton of forums that are around, especially for like specific, car brands or truck brands or whatever. And it's kind of an older school kind of audience sometimes. So the forums are pretty popular, but I would say, there's a lot of new stuff going on in the automotive niche. And I think it could be a very good one, like many of them. I think you can earn money in one of the best ways. So I'm going back. So I mentioned, clues that a niche is profitable or not. And one of them is whether or not there are other websites out there in the niche and how many there are. So a lot of times people are looking for like the blue ocean situation where there's virtually no competition. You're the first website in this area. And if you catch it just at the right time, that can work out great. But if you're too early and people don't quite know what's going on with the niche, you just spend a lot of time on the education piece. And you're like trying to tell people about it. People don't even know to search for it because it's too new. And one of the things that you actually want to see is some competition. Sure, at some point it's like, oh man, there's so much competition, it's overwhelming. But if you refer to what I was mentioning earlier, if you want to put in the time, like you can compete in any niche, like no matter how big it is, you can carve out your little area and cover what you want. And I think it's important for you to be interested and potentially even passionate about that topic area if it's more competitive. But basically, if you see competitors out there, that's good. If you see, a lot of competitors, you see even like e-commerce shops and people are doing drop shipping. Maybe there's like, in the automotive niche, I know there's like specific customization, like add-ons and companies that are focusing on serving that market. And quick example. So I was in San Diego, the Mission Beach area last week. It was fantastic. San Diego was amazing. There was a car show in, I think it's called the like Belmont Park area, Belmont. I don't know. I don't know if it's a park. But the Belmont little zone, the little commercial zone there's a little amusement park and stuff, but there was a car show there, and there were, mostly antique cars. So they're, at least 30 years old. Some of them were from, I think there were a couple from like the 40s, but mostly like, you know, 50s through 70s. There were a couple, slightly more modern cars, but there's, well, a lot of money. People spend a lot of money on those cars. I mean, they look fantastic. But the thing is, there's all these aftermarket things that you can do to a car, and there's all these companies serving them. So there's a huge audience. There's a lot of money into it. So I would say automotive, probably good. There's different ways you could approach it, but there's a lot of products. A lot of people have cars. A lot of people are into them. Okay. Ravi says, when to know that your website is not going to work, as had few bad experiences that after a year of serious work was not able to get worth from time given on it. Is 4 to 5 months best to know if your website is going to work or not? Okay. So 4 or 5 months is probably not long enough. No. I would say you probably need to give it a year to 18 months or so if you haven't had anything work out before. If you have a little more experience, you may be able to see some signs early on. But, the site that I have been working on that's sort of newer, it's almost 2 years old right now. And I was looking back at the analytics. I should probably do like a full update on this site. But I was looking back at the analytics, and really like for almost 9 to 10 months, I was only getting like 20 visitors a day. And I can't remember how many sites that I've built, but let's say it's the 20th one, right? And I've had some work out. Most of them didn't work out as exactly how I thought. There were several that I built early on, too many. But basically 4 to 5 months at this point in time probably isn't enough. Sometimes the sandbox seems to last about 6 months. For this particular site, it lasted almost a year. It was really after a year when the site started to grow in a serious way. Now it's been growing pretty consistently. Google likes the site. 4 to 5 months is not enough. If you are running into an issue where you're like, I don't know if I'm doing something right, you need to have a friend, have a peer, someone that has more experience than you to have a look at your site and see if there's any like mistake that you're making that you could just fix. Sometimes people goof up on this or that, and it's something that they can go back and fix on their site. Another thing that I find and it's kind of funny, because I think this happens in many different areas. So actually we could take a little poll in the chat here. Who thinks they're like an above average driver? Above average. And I think, many of you have heard this before, and I will hopefully catch up on the chat here in a second. But there's so many people who say, yeah, the content is really good on my site. And then when I go and check it out, it's not very good. It's actually really bad. And they were like, yeah, everything's fantastic, blah, blah, blah. It's very high quality. And, this site deserves to rank, and they like blame it on Google. And granted, you could have a high quality site and still have trouble ranking. But when I do go look at someone's site and I see the content is not very good, the quality is low, I'm like, well, you got to do a better job. You're just doing a bad job here. So try a little harder and, edit it, do whatever you have to do. But your site's not above average. It actually sucks. And, the thing is, I'll see if anyone says, who's an above average driver? Okay, so no one mentioned it. But the thing is, there's surveys out there and psychological studies or whatever that they do at universities so students get extra credit. Basically, like 80% of the people out there think they're an above average driver. And of course, above average, not everyone can be an above average driver. Only half, right? If you just draw a line at 50%. So everyone thinks that they're an above average driver or that they're a little better or whatever. And about half of you are, but then the other half, you're not. So, and not that Google ranks things as average or below average, but when people look at their content and they're like, it's really good, maybe you should go back and look at it. So I will plug the live stream for the Niche Lifestyle Show that Niche Website Builders and WP Eagle and I did on my channel just a couple days ago on Wednesday. We actually did talk about when to know if your site is not going to work out and you should just move on to another one. There's no clean answer, but it's something that you'll have to think about yourself. Unfortunately, there's no pure answer. All right, and we're going to blast through here. So Cheesecake says, automotive is a good niche. There's a high cart value and accessories, but the competition should be high since it's a common topic. But like I said, there's a lot of different ways to slice it. So if you just focused on EV, the electric vehicle area, then that's a growing niche. I suspect there's going to be even more interest in that area. I mean, gas is super expensive. It was like $6.57 in California, but gas is expensive. There will be more interest. It's a growing market. I would say, even though it may seem competitive and saturated, if you had a site just about EV, you probably, and you had like a long timeline, let's say it's like an 8 to 10 year timeline, you could own the niche, right? There's no reason. Sure, there's some big sites out there already, but there's no reason you can't, go after it. King Will says, what hosting do I use? So I use MDD hosting and SiteGround. There's a link in the description for SiteGround, I believe. MDD is like a smaller shop, but they do a good job, and I've used them. I have like half of my sites on each one. Sonia says, 130 monthly from 60 articles. The site is 1 year old. Am I underperforming? These are hard questions. So 130 monthly from 60 articles, that seems okay. I mean, it depends on a number of factors. It's a 1 year old site. That's cool. So $100 per month from a 1 year old site. Are you underperforming? It depends. You said it's a low competition niche, but it's also low advertising rates as well. So that kind of makes sense. Now, one cool thing that I have heard, and I actually talked to a friend like in the last week, and basically he had a site like that. It was like one of his first sites, and he was like, yeah, it never really earned that much, but it's been earning I think his was like 250. It's like, it's been earning like 250 or $300 for like 4 years consistently. He hasn't touched it. So you might be at a spot where you can grow, you could tweak it. Maybe you have learned, Sonia, that that niche isn't profitable enough for what you're trying to do. And you may decide that you want to maybe spend the same effort on a different site that can be more profitable. And that could be valid too. John says, what kind of truck do you have? I have an F-150. It is a 2005. The 4.6 liter V8 in Colorado gas prices. So I don't drive much, not much at all. I talked to my wife. I think she said gas was like $4.50. And I probably don't fill up more than once every 6 weeks or something like that. Okay. So they are expensive. The gas is expensive, but not as bad as I've seen. So I think Colorado is probably in the middle of the pack, but I haven't monitored too closely. All right. Okay. And Sonia, how much traffic does your site get? And you're saying that the EPMV is $5. So that is definitely on the low side. I was talking with my account manager over at Ezoic just yesterday, and she mentioned that I probably can do a couple things to earn more. So we turned on like some more ads. There's a couple things that I didn't quite have set up right, but she helped me out. So hopefully like in a week, maybe like 2 weeks, 2 weeks to a month, I should have more data. But it's definitely going to be more aggressive with the ads. But you gotta test it, right? You gotta test it to see what happens. And more ads generally is going to mean the visitor experience is not going to be as great, but you got to test it and see what happens. So if I see if I see the user experience is too bad, then I would dial it back and try to hopefully find a balance there. All right. And Zach says, my driving skills are best described as you should walk more places. Yeah, we should all walk more. It is, it's been so hot here in Colorado. That was one of the great things in San Diego. It was like 60 to like 73 almost every day. I mean, in fact, the 73 day was a little warm. So it was like 60 to 70, maybe a little overcast in the morning, and then it cleared up and it was like beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Here in Colorado, it's been about, I think it was like 100 when we left. It's going to be in the 90s. It just gets hot. And I have to put sunscreen on. I try to, this is a new tattoo here, so I'm trying to keep it sunscreened really well. But yeah, it just gets hot. It gets hot around here. I don't like the hot weather. At least it's dry. At least it's dry around here. The dry heat. And Daniel says, I've never had a crash, but plenty of near misses. Okay. One thing I'm going to do here, everyone hang on. I'm going to play a quick ad from Odys and give my voice a little rest. I think I will play some guitar today, although we have a very active chat out there. Let me see if I can find this video here, because I recorded it, but I need to get it. So just give me a second here. I know it's fun. This is the best part, where I look for which video I'm going to play. So engaging. Just looking through the files here. Okay, I think I labeled it pretty good. I could find this. Here we go. All right, let's do it. A quick thanks to our sponsor, Odys Global. They're the source for premium age domains with great branding and fantastic backlinks. The featured domain for today is mommydigger.com, which seems like an odd name. to me, but it was in the parenting niche, kind of a mom blog featuring product reviews, giveaways, recipes, crafts, and more. It had a lot of presence across a lot of social media platforms as well. And this is checking in with a domain rating of 14, domain authority of 30. It's fairly old, at 11 years old, back from 2011. And I think with a blog, a topic area like this, the mom blog spot may seem really kind of saturated. You may feel like, oh, there's so many out there. But the fact is, you can cover so much, and there are new blogs popping up all the time. I mention this often in the podcast and different times when I have a chance. Basically, a lot of things are a bit competitive, but there's plenty of room for everyone. Everyone can have a little bit of a different take. It's pretty awesome to have the ability to cover long tail, low competition keywords, informational in nature. And I think you can do a lot of that here. When you check out some of the, big backlinks, some of the impressive backlinks here, you have blogger.com, WP Engine, you got Lifehack, yourmodernfamily.com, Blog Lovin', and so on. There's one called massholemommy.com as well, which seems unusual, but there's a ton of backlinks. You got 500 plus unique referring domains, and about 200 of those are do follow. So it's worth checking out. You can hop over to Odys, and if you join using my affiliate link, you can get $100 into your account, or, well, in addition, if you buy something, I might get a commission, which I greatly appreciate. So thanks to Odys Global, and let's get back to the show. All right. Luckily, I wore the same shirt. Well, it's not the exact same shirt. It's just another white shirt. It's so hot outside, This is pretty comfortable. And I did, typically, in the past, I used to wear like just a black t-shirt, V-neck as well. But it's so dark down here that if I wear black, it's just like a weird floating head situation. So I try to wear lighter colors. And that's why I changed my wardrobe, a question that nobody asked. Okay. Let's see here. Let's get back to it. You can ask some more questions out there. All right. And Jay did give a tip to Sonia, and that is to check out AdSense instead of Ezoic. So one thing you can do on Ezoic is set up the AdSense mediation. So that allows AdSense to work sort of in an integrated fashion with Ezoic. And per my understanding, check the fine print and everything, but per my understanding, AdSense will bid for the ad space the same as the rest of the sort of advertisers. So if AdSense does perform better, you'll get paid directly from AdSense. But the thing is, you have all the bids. There's more competition, right? So there's more demand for that supply of ad space on your site. So you potentially should actually integrate the AdSense mediation with Ezoic. Again, check the fine print, and then you could end up with like the best of both worlds. So in the cases where the Ezoic advertisers pay more, then you'll be in good shape. And I think I have that right. Okay, so Malwick says, what exactly is good or excellent content? Any samples? So I would say, no, I don't have any specific samples. Maybe that's something we can look at someday on a live stream where I share my screen, and then, I go just randomly find some websites. But I was going to say, if you go to some of the best in class websites, whether it's informational or product reviews, like for product reviews, maybe you go to like the Wirecutter, for example. And if you just read it and it sounds good and it's sort of engaging and you feel like, I want to read the rest of this, that's pretty good. The people that I was talking about before, it's where I go take a look at their content and it just sounds like, I'm trying to think, it sounds like maybe 12-year-old wrote it. And it's kind of rambling on. There are very weird transitions. There's a lot of repetition. And it just seems like it was not edited and they were trying to hit a word count. And sometimes you see that in the grammar can be very good. You're like, it actually reads okay, but it's just like rambling nonsense. The worst sort of content has that rambling, fluffy, repetitive, like just kind of filler words all throughout. And the grammar's fucked up. So words are missing, word choice is off, and it seems like a non-native speaker for whatever language you're trying to write in, a non-native speaker wrote that content and then no one edited it. So you end up with, fluffy content trying to hit a word count, poor word choice, grammar doesn't look right, and it's just bad. That happens an alarming amount of time. And honestly, I don't know how that happens other than someone, ordered content. They just published it and they were like, I'm not even going to read it and I'm not even going to touch it. So that is the only way that can happen. Or someone ordered content from a non-native speaker. The person that ordered it also is a non-native speaker, and then they didn't take the time to use a tool like maybe Grammarly to even try to fix any grammar or issues or mistakes. So those are the main issues. But basically, if you read the content and you understand what they were trying to write and it seems like it's concise, that's probably pretty good. Ravi says you will get a peer to review what you're doing. Cool. Ravi also says, one more thing that every update of Google affects website drastically. So is it better to focus on Bing and Yandex search to ensure that core updates don't kill your site? No. And I think a couple people, Daniel and other Daniel also mention, but basically you can ignore the other search engines at this point in time. So I know there's some people and you're like, I get my visitors from Bing or whatever. The fact is it's such a small part of the search engine traffic world that you should just focus on Google. Like you basically completely can ignore. And I know I actually saw in chat some people were like, yeah, the Bing webmaster tools are fantastic. It's like, what the fuck are you going to do with 4% of the traffic? Like, great. That's great for a fraction. Like it's totally focusing on the wrong part. The whole market's on the other side. So why would you spend time on like the 4% or whatever it is? 6%, 10%. I mean, 80-20 it, everyone. Like just think about it that way. So Ravi, I would not worry about the others. If you are worried about the Google core updates, then, you'll have to build up a good tolerance for that because that is just part of the situation. If you're getting your traffic from, organic search, then you're going to have to deal with it. And Neo says, how many posts do solo entrepreneurs write per day? It just depends on the individual, Some people that are, full-time writers. And if you want to add context to this, I'm not going to be able to answer it very well. Some people are going to be able to write, 3-4 articles a day. It depends on how long they are. If you write full-time, you may be able to do that. Me, I write, basically, I outsource it to agencies typically. So I don't write too much personally. But, I have a friend and he's had a blog for about the same amount of time as I have, maybe a little bit longer, but he still writes, 1 or 2 articles per week, basically. Some are long, some are short. And I would say, from a productivity perspective, like as much as you can write and publish is probably good, but it depends on what you're trying to do. And Ravi says, as a new blogger like me, I gave too much importance to Google with hedging. Now, I mean, I think Google's like right now, currently, it's the only game from organic search perspective. You can go the YouTube route though. I mean, you can get traffic. Maybe that's still Google and everything, but you can make a go on YouTube. Okay. Okay, Ricky, I got a good analogy here. Okay, Ricky says 150 page views per month, 70 articles. The site's 7 months old. You upload 10 articles per month. Is it normal? It's pretty funny. That could be fine. Congratulations, you got 150 page views. Is that per month or per day? So it's kind of like I know a handful of you will get this. So it's like having a medical call-in show on the radio, right? Someone calls in and they're like, hey, I have a couple bumps on my nether region area. It kind of burns, it kind of itches. Is that normal? I'm like, well, probably not, but you should go to a doctor, most likely. So in this case, 150 page views per month, that seems a little bit low for 7 months, but maybe it's okay. 70 articles on your site, that's cool. In 7 months, 10 articles per month. I like that cadence of publishing. That's good. That's very good, actually. But I would say, maybe you would want to see a little bit more traffic. However, per another question earlier, how long does it take? I would say, maybe you're just sort of in a slow growth period, and after a year, it'll grow more. So is it normal? I'm not really sure. Okay, Neo says, wow, sorry, sir, and I'm not sure what that is in reference to. You're a beginner marketer, and you made only $4. Can you connect with me? We're connecting right now. We're already doing it. All right, and then, all right, scrolling down. Paul, what's happening? Paul says, I've heard the term niche, an inch wide and a mile deep. Is it better to niche like that or broader? It depends on what you're trying to do. So Paul, kudos on asking a good question here. So what I like to do and what I recommend to sort of hedge and give yourself flexibility. A lot of times I want to make a decision so that I have a lot of flexibility to pivot in the future if I want to, but you don't have to. So the way to approach it, especially if you're starting a new site or actually even like YouTube channel, podcast, like Phil, and whatever thing you're working on, if you focus really early in a very specific area and go really deep on it, it's a great way to carve out your area in a very wide niche. What you can do is make sure that you brand whatever it is you're working on. So if it's a website, maybe instead of having, best astrophotography lens.com, and then you're like stuck in that astrophotography lens like area, you would brand it more broadly. Maybe you call your website something about just nerdycameragear.com. And then you could cover the astrophotography stuff really deeply. If that's your thing, you go really deep on it. You cover all the lenses, different manufacturers, different models, all this stuff right in that very specific niche. But if you want to in the future branch out into like cinema cameras and non-astrophotography and portraits, black and white, film cameras, right? So you brand your site or your project in a broad way so that you can fit in a lot of stuff. So in the future, you do have the flexibility to add more products, add more topic areas, but you are focusing very, very closely on just one specific area. Mitch says, how's the affiliate sites after the core update? They're fine. Everything on my end is fine. I did notice one site seemed to have like an uptick. And then one of my other sites, I was talking to my VA, and it's still growing. It's very slow, but it has been growing very slow for a couple years. It's the same site I was telling you about. It's very slow over the last couple years, but it's been consistent and appears to have not been impacted by any of the core updates in the last 2 years, which is pretty awesome, pretty amazing. The thing is, the way I explained it to her, I'm like, yeah, it'd be great to get a bump after one of these algorithm updates. But when I thought about it, I was like, if the site is sort of on the cusp of one of the many variables that Google is tweaking with these core updates, then if I got a big bump after a core update, it could be something that's adjusted in the future and it can go down. I had a friend who, I think it was every other core update seemed to hit his site. So he would get a big bump and then it would get taken away. And then he would get another bump and taken away, just back and forth. And it was very stressful. My site doesn't seem to be experiencing any of that. There's no bumps, there's no drops. It's just been either just incremental growth, just very small, or kind of flat for a little while. And as soon as I start publishing, more things happen. And Jay says, have I noticed any trends with the recent core update? No, not really. And again, I'll refer people, certainly check out the last live stream, the niche lifestyle show. And we talked about it a little bit, and it sounds like there's no apparent thing. So a couple people have some sites up, a couple people have some sites down. I think Alex Cooper has analyzed a couple things over on WP Eagle, or at least talked a little bit more about his sites. It sounds like more of his sites were hit overall, but I haven't noticed any trends. Gaming says, do we need to upgrade our content regularly? I have a website that has 150 articles and it's not been upgraded for a year and a half. And recently I saw 70 of my articles de-index. Yes. I've recently heard this explained a few times that you should spend like half your time working on old content, updating it and improving it, and then the other half on publishing new content. So they're saying, right, I think this was like from Google, like spend 50% of your time improving content. So yes, you should. And if you saw 70% of your articles de-indexed, then I would say, yeah, you should probably do that. What's up, Michael? Telling me, I think I was about to say market share. Did I say the wrong thing? Probably. Domain, what's up? Oh, Tony's on. Good to see you. And Daniel thought it was a good analogy. All right. Domain says, hello from Indonesia. I've known this YouTube for a long time. You're very inspired and a beginner WordPress blogger. Cool. And then Metch says, please reply to my question. What was your question? Oh yeah, I think I got to it already. Okay, yeah, I got you. All right, and then King says, would you buy a site from Flippa? I I would buy a site from Flippa. I think, you have to make sure you go through the proper due diligence and really understand, what you're getting. I've talked to a lot of people that got very good deals and they found great websites over on Flippa. I've also heard um, all the issues that I've heard from people buying a site, and then it was some sort of either fake traffic or fake monetization. Most of those have been purchased from Flippa. So there are some scammers out there, but from what I understand, Flippa has really tried to improve, number one, the impression, so people like me don't talk shit about them, but so that, I mean, they want to have repeat buyers and sellers. Like, they want it to be a good marketplace. So if there's like bad actors out there taking advantage of people, then that's not good for anyone involved except the bad people. So I would be fine buying something from Flippa. I think that's totally cool. Make sure you do your due diligence. Depending on the cost of the site, that would be something where like you hire someone to go look at it and verify certain pieces of information, make sure it's a good deal. Maybe they take a look at the backlink profile. Like, there are services and companies that will do the due diligence for you. And that is something that I would definitely take seriously. George usually sleeps underneath the tables back there. She goes and digs on the rug a little bit and then like makes her little spot. So I think she's sleeping right now. All right. Anna says, oh, there she is. See her down there? Down there at the bottom. Hey, Georgie, what's up? She's like, it's time for lunch walk, guy. All right. Gulnaz, what's happening? Corner Cut says, is AI content good for ranking? So we made it nearly an hour and 15 minutes without talking about AI so much. So I don't really encourage people to go the AI route, but people have a real hard on for AI writers, and they want someone else to write the content. So I did interview Bennett, and he was able to rank. There's pretty low competition. I looked at the site, but he was able to get AI content, publish it, and it ranked another month. So is it good for ranking? Well, I wouldn't say it's good for ranking, but AI content can rank. So check out that interview. It's on this channel. It's got a lot of views. You can ask questions. I think Bennett takes a look every now and then and he'll answer back. Sam says, I'm starting a new site on a fresh domain. You don't have money for paid tools. You've done loads of keyword research, but analyzing the top 10 SERP results for each one is taking ages. Yeah, so limited budget, you don't have the ability to go too deep. I would say, so go back and listen to, I think, the interview with Jake Thomas, and I can't remember the title, but someone may know it in here. So Jake Thomas, I think if you just search on my channel for Jake Thomas, you should find him. But if I remember right, he basically wasn't doing any like sophisticated keyword research. He was just like using Google Auto Suggest. So I would say if you are limited on tools, I would say really focus on Google Auto Suggest and related searches and just kind of go deep. If you go back and look at some of my live streams, I have shown on screen, like how to approach some keyword research, informational keywords specifically. And if you just look, you can find a few demos of me like doing keyword research. But if you don't have money for tools, then you can just go after ultra low competition. Don't worry so much about the analysis or the keyword competition, the keyword difficulty. Like, just don't worry about it so much. And when you find these really long tail keywords, just sort of inherently, there's not going to be as much competition. You can still have a look at the SERPs, but you don't have to go as deep. Let's see. Metch says, what is maximum traffic for one of your sites getting in its age? So for one of my sites, the one that I don't talk about all the stuff I work on. So for one of my sites, I will tell you, it's getting like 50 to 60,000 page views. It may be closer to 70 for one of these recent months. But yeah, just reasonable amount of traffic. So it's age, couple years old. Danny says, what are my thoughts on creating a site that focuses on a specific location? I think that's fine. I have heard from people that do that, but I think it's totally fine, especially if you're, if you're passionate or you live in that region or you know about it and you're thinking about it all the time. I think those can work well. I know, just living in a few different places and traveling and stuff like that, we've searched for like, activities in Longmont and then see what's going on around town. So those can work. And if it's a bigger location or like a destination, then people will be searching for it. And it almost fits into like a sort of travel space or, a geographic location, but that can totally be fine. I haven't worked on a site like that before, but I think it can work. Going back to like competition, if there are other sites that are doing the same thing, then that shows that there's a market there. And one cool thing with like sort of the location, if you see there's a site that's doing well and they're focusing on a specific location, you can probably translate that idea to a different location. And if you think they're doing a good job covering it, then you can cover it in a similar way and architect a site in a similar way. And Anna says, oh no, your website got hit as well. More than 80% of your pages are de-indexed. I'm curious, does that correspond with the latest core update for the people that lost 70 and 80% of the index pages? All right. Yeah, Georgie's doing pretty good. She missed us a lot. She just knows I'm talking about her. She missed us a lot when we were out of town, but I think we missed her even more. And all right, Domain.io says how to increase blog visitors and beginner backlinks. Okay, so there's a bunch of videos on this. Those are both very big topics, but just very quickly. To increase blog visitors, publish more content, get backlinks. You're already talking about that. So beginner backlinks, this is a tough one. So I would say networking and trying to build relationships is probably the best approach from a long-term perspective. There are a lot of companies that sell backlinks in some fashion, and there's a lot of sort of content mill sites. And I've been struggling with this a little bit. There's some good agencies that do some, real guest posting. There's some agencies that do like Haro link building or Shotgun Skyscraper, like niche website builders. But there's a lot of just big content mills and a lot of agencies just have like a database of websites that they could buy links from. And one thing that I've heard over and over again is that um, they'll someone will buy a link from an agency, and then the person that bought the link will then see if there's any other, basically they'll Google and see if they can like buy a link from that site, and they'll find it listed for cheaper somewhere else. So these agencies are really just like finding a cheap, a cheap link. They could buy it for 20 bucks and then they're selling it for like 200. So I've been struggling a little bit because there are a lot of companies that try to reach out and work with me. And, you know, some of the links that they provide may be great. They may be like really good in the right kind of niche, relevant with good content as a guest post that's published. Or it could be on like a general news site and it's just bullshit. It's like every topic in the world. So it's like current events, news, technology, recipes, fill in the blank. They cover everything, and they just have 20 articles published per day or something like that. And they're just they're making good money, but it's just a weird thing. So backlinks are a little bit tough, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you go out and try to guest post just by like sending links to websites to say, hey, can I guest post? That usually is not going to work that well. All right, Michael says, stay the hell away from AI writers. Gaming says, is it okay if I add 1 or 2 health topic articles out of my 400 gaming articles? Recently, I added 1 health topic article. I would say if it fits in, if it's like related to gaming, then that works. But if it's just like random, then it doesn't quite make sense to have like a random health topic on your gaming articles or with your gaming articles. So, technically you can do, of course, whatever you want. Yeah. All right, Metch Perfect says, I think I'm asking the wrong question. That's not why you're blah, blah, blah. So one thing you have to remember, there's a little bit of a delay, and then I'm answering the questions in order. So if I don't answer your question right away, it's because I haven't gotten to it yet. Occasionally I miss one. All right, Neo says, as a beginner, I fell into health and fitness niche as my first site. Is it okay to not include my bio as I am still young? I just quit my school for online income. So you should include some kind of bio, and I would challenge you to say, like, use that. So there's a lot of young people out there, right? So why not go after, I mean, that's the thing that happens. Like people will be attracted to other people that are like them. Like, so if you're young, you may have like an advantage, right? Like, so young people may not take advice from me, but you're young. So why not use that as an advantage instead of thinking that it's, some sort of issue? Corner Cut says, how many articles will be enough to get high traffic? Well, technically, you just need 1. All right. So this is a bad question. Basically, what is high traffic, right? So that's part of it. High traffic or low traffic is relative. And then technically, you just need 1 article to get a lot of traffic. But I think you're really asking something else, which is how many articles should you publish? And I would say at a minimum, try to get 20 out there, and then hopefully you'll be able to publish more. Generally, publish as many articles as you can. But it's a bad question because you're not defining how much high traffic is. You're saying, you're assuming that having a lot of articles means you get a lot of traffic. That is not accurate. All right. Sam says you'll look into the Jake interview if you haven't watched already. You have free tools and 600 keywords from 1,000 to 0 traffic. Mostly auto suggest, and people also ask long tail. You're using the mods for. Okay, so you should be in good shape, and you probably don't have to do any crazy amount of keyword research or competition analysis. But I would say it may be worthwhile. You got to whittle down to 600. It's too many. And okay, so Anna says it was June 5th, so no AI used. So June 5th, I think that does probably fit into the last core update, right? Because it took a couple weeks and it was May 23rd. So yeah. All right, and Sam says you look at the top 10 and see what other factors are our forums and try to work out the low competition as a pointer where to start writing. Maybe you're overthinking it. Yeah, I mean, you got to start somewhere. So I would say, you do have to whittle it down a little bit. All right, my voice is starting to get tired, so we're going to wind down. Daniel says you just ranked second for a keyword that gets 10 to 20 searches per month on Google, yet the Search Console says it's bringing in 14 visitors a day. I think a day. Maybe it's per month. But anyway, it's often more than we expect. All right. I think that's it for today. We made it through the questions. One thing I should have pointed out earlier, but if you do take a look in the description, I have the free mini course coming out July 4th through the 8th. It'll get you focused on starting your new site or growing an existing site. You can check it out. It's free to sign up for. And if you sign up for the email list, then you'll get it on July 4th through the 8th. Thanks again to the sponsors, Odys, Global, and Ezoic. Steven says that you appreciate it. What's up, man? Good to see you. Thanks, everyone, for hopping on. And, check out my podcast. It's called The Doug Show. Lots of topics. And I have another one on financial independence, which I encourage you to check that one out too, because if you're watching this, you probably, you want to earn some money on the side. You want to maybe quit your job, earn a full-time income on your own. But really, you probably just want freedom with your time and not have to answer to a boss that you don't like, and just, have more free time to do whatever it is you want, whatever it is important to you. You want to do that. And the Mile High 5, that's financial independence. That is really, it's kind of a more advanced financial independence show. My friend and I have reached our financial independence. He retired like 5 years ago. He actually publishes his net worth on his site. And it's 1,500 days, which, he's actually lost a lot of money. I'm just going to check out 1500days.com. And he publishes his net worth on here. And his goal, so he puts this on the sidebar here. He says his goal was to build a portfolio of $1 million by February of 2017. That was 1,500 days from the start of the blog, which was in 2013. And he actually retired, like I said, 5 years ago. His net worth, well, at the beginning of this year, the stock market has taken a dive, but at the beginning of this year, it was 4.7 million. So that's my podcast co-host, 4.7 million. I don't publish my net worth. And Neo Shuttle is asking, I'm not going to connect with you, man. I don't hook up with random people on here. So you can join the email list. I do these live streams, but I'm not texting people or any kind of nonsense like that. No offense to you or to anyone else who thought about maybe trying to get my contact info. So 4.7, and the crazy thing, he just this year, so this is a dramatic number, right? So just this year, his portfolio has lost $750,000 in value. That's what he lost, and he's still doing pretty well. So his current net worth, and he has a spreadsheet so you can see what he's invested in and all that stuff. So the net worth is 4.2. So it dropped quite a bit, but yeah, pretty ridiculous. So that's my podcast co-host, and he's sort of in the financial independence world. So I did say I was gonna play us out here on the. I think I got a. My spring is. All right, so I'll just play it for like a minute or two. I'm just gonna kind of mess around. I don't have any songs or anything. And Georgie's like licking herself there, so that's great. Hey Georgie, what are you doing? Hi. Hi. Oh, are you gonna stretch, girl? All right, we'll take a second here. Thanks, Daniel. You say you love the podcast. Much appreciated. Hey. So this is the new guitar. I know I'm gonna lose a lot of people, so it's not for everybody. Hey, Georgie. And Georgie needs to go out, so we're gonna have to go in a minute here. So this is the new one here. All right, we'll catch y'all next time.